Okay, there we go. I have closed captions on for those who might need it. Oh boy. I'm not going to deny. Part of me, just because I know this is going to cheese me off, I don't want to, I technically don't want to watch this, but here we go. We're going to do it. Let's go.
When is a giant monster not a giant monster? When it's a giant metaphor! Let's do this. So, kaiju is a Japanese word that literally means strange beast, but it's typically used to refer
by the way, fun little fact of language. Kaiju means strange beast. Technically, Godzilla falls under Daikaiju, which means great strange beast or giant strange beast, something to that effect. Fun little language fact. But let's keep going.
To a specific kind of monster in monster movies where the monster is giant. Now, what exactly defines a kaiju is a matter of furious academic debate, but most people agree on the classic biologist answer of, you know it when you see it. No.
Okay. I didn't even see that fucking panel she posted. Hold on.
Answer of,
you know, you can tell we're off to a good start because listen. This isn't even a form radical meme. This isn't even a form radical meme. When you get right down to it, Clifford the Big Red Dog is a kaiju. It's like he is a red dog that for some reason just gets bigger the more you love him. Okay, that fits the definition of a strange beast. It's like the idea there's some like non-committal, you don't want to commit to the definition is just, yeah, Clifford is a kaiju, exactly. The idea you don't want to commit to the definition is just, you can see where we're going with this, right? Where we're going with this as we continue. But all right, let's continue.
You know it when you see it. Now, in general, kaiju are big and destructive and typically enjoy pushing over buildings and screaming a lot. Let's not get too specific. That's how you attract philosophers. Now, kaiju movies are usually about two things: the kaiju itself and how people react to it. A lot of this is because kaiju make extremely convenient analogies for any kind of large-scale threat or fear an audience might be facing. Kaiju are typically huge, powerful, and impossible to control, persuade, or stop with conventional weapons. And notably, they're not really comparable to anything else. Like a horror monster, but bigger and less personal. Like a natural disaster, but with a lot more agency. How would people handle...
That's actually fun fact. She's making good points. I will admit that. Something actually, personal beef. Where was that first panel change? Yeah, no, it wasn't that one. Fuck. Yeah, it's like why I genuinely think that a good example of a failed kaiju is Gino from Godzilla 98. We know him today as Zilla, because very specifically, he was not invincible. They just didn't hit him until the last possible minute of the movie. If he'd taken a single hit before that point, he'd have dropped over dead. Like, generally speaking, if you're gonna, kaiju are only killed through it takes unconventional means to kill a kaiju.
Handle this is an interesting question because kaiju don't have easy real-world parallels. Kaiju ask the question, what would you do in the face of something so vast and powerful that you couldn't overpower it? And if a society has some big nebulous fear that they can't really deal with, as most societies do, you can take out the nebulous part and turn that fear into a monster, and then ask the question again. It turns speculative fiction into social commentary. Now, what exactly that big nebulous fear...
I will say, while she's not wrong, here's the fact, though. Kaiju, while they are, while they are a lot of the time social commentary, I wouldn't even say a lot of the time. While their origins are in social commentary, that a kaiju has to be social commentary is honestly, that's not how it works. I mean, even the Godzilla franchise itself veered away from social commentary to basically be action films before you even reached the middle part of the Showa era. That was the original era of Godzilla films from 1954 to, I think it was like 1975, 74, something like that. Basically everything from the original Godzilla to Terror of Mechagodzilla. That's the Showa era. Like, because like here's the thing, and this is something, it might come up in this video, I don't quite remember. There's two major points she makes, and that's what I remember from this. But by the time you got to what do you call it, Ghidorah the three-headed monster, which was the let's see, the fourth Godzilla film, and it wasn't the fourth kaiju film Toho made, but if we're talking the Godzilla series itself, it was the fourth Godzilla film. You were already beginning to see the decline of social commentary as the core of the films and a focus on action. Like, America gets blamed a lot for the MonsterVerse not being like a nothing but social commentary, but Japan did that first decades ago. Like, we're talking the 1960s, Japan had a head start on that. So Godzilla films, fifth film, hold on, Gojira, Godzilla Raids Again, King Kong versus Godzilla, okay, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. What's the fourth film? Am I missing one? Am I missing a film in there? I swear to God that was the fourth film, unless like my brain isn't like, you know, keeping track or something. But anyway, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, the Japanese films stopped being social commentary almost immediately. The Heisei era kept up. Let me try and remember. The Heisei era kept up the social commentary. Let's see, at least that was the second era of Godzilla. 1984 to 1996. I want to say they kept up the social commentary for... Wait, no. They kept it up until at least the second to last movie. If Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla has social commentary in it, I don't know what the fuck it is. I've seen that movie like a dozen times, and yeah. But the first, like, they at least kept the social commentary up to Godzilla vs. Mothra in that series. I have two questions. One, what will be the future of kaiju media? Do you know about the... I have no... okay, history... what is the future of kaiju media? Kaiju media is doing really good right now. It's got a strong future ahead of it. As for the rest of that, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right. All right, okay, we're going to be here all day if I don't continue, but you see what I'm saying about kaiju with social commentary. Kaiju is not necessarily social commentary. It can be just an action film, and that is true for Godzilla himself. Godzilla has commented on social things. Godzilla has also just been, let's see them monsters fight. And those are both perfectly valid. Yeah, let's continue.
Theories can vary a lot. Godzilla, the archetypical kaiju, originated as the terror of the bomb, the post-World War II fear of the consequences of nuclear weaponry. More recent kaiju movies like Pacific Rim and even some of the Godzilla remakes cast the kaiju as more analogous to climate change, the current big nebulous threat. And with King Kong, who was a kaiju before kaiju were cool, he's a giant monstrous ape from a
Are you all ready for this? Everybody brace yourself.
far-off land that kidnaps a terrified white lady, and one extremely popular interpretation is that he's analogous for the racism and the xenophobia that was oh so popular in 1930s America. Kaiju let us cast
She's going to come back to that, but oh boy. Nope. I'm holding it in. We're going to let her continue.
Nebulous invisible fears as skyscraper-sized giant monsters, which is useful because it's easier to think about a giant monster than a disembodied fear. In fact, it's a grand old sci-fi tradition to make your monster an allegory for a current threat, like in Heinlein's The Puppet Masters, where he very specifically reminds the audience on multiple occasions that these mind-controlling alien parasites are just like those gosh darn communists.
I mean, Heinlein isn't wrong, though. Heinlein was not wrong. He also wasn't wrong when he said when he compared the bugs from Starship Troopers to communists. I mean, yeah, the entirety of communism as an ideology is about, destroying one's individuality, about completely annihilating your ability to think for yourself. Like, that is the core of communism. Heinlein's comparisons with the bugs and, you know, the creatures from the Puppet Masters is on point. But she treats it like a criticism of Heinlein that he did that. Note that.
Anyway, kaiju are often used to embody the prevailing social fear of the day, be it xenophobia, McCarthyism, or various apocalyptic threats. This also means that kaiju narratives are heavily
Note she also considers McCarthyism a threat. Because, you know, I mean, we all know, everyone, McCarthy did nothing wrong. In fact, he didn't go far enough, in my opinion.
Dependent on the social context they're created in, and they often change as the society changes. So let's start by diving into the archetypical kaiju, Godzilla. Now, Godzilla first appeared in 1954 in the Japanese movie Gojira. Now, before I get into the story of the movie, I need to provide a little bit of real-world context surrounding the production of this movie. First of all, the obvious, World War II. Godzilla was released 9 years after the war ended, 9 years after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the first and currently last use of nuclear weapons in warfare. The director of the film, Ishiro Honda, was a World War II veteran who passed through Hiroshima on his way home and had been horrified at the devastation. Now, the US occupied Japan until 1952, and during that time, they censored Japanese media. Notably, nobody was allowed to actually talk about the atomic bomb, which meant that for 7 years, all that nationwide nuclear fear couldn't be
It's okay. Some important context that I feel like she's leaving out, and this is very much the woke method. No, McCarthy was entirely right. That's the thing. Hollywood was glowing red. But anyway, more to the point of the video. Something I feel like she's either leaving out or is going to leave out is that Japan was an aggressor nation. They were an aggressor nation with aspirations of dominating the entire Pacific up to and including the California coastline of the United States. There is nothing wrong with imposing censorship on an occupied nation whose goal was to kill you. People seem to forget that about it. Or no, people don't forget it. They leave it out because Japan flip-flops from this horribly in the mind of woke leftists like this lady. Japan flip-flops from this, from this horrible racist, sexist, xenophobic nation that needs to be paved over by Western ideals. It flip-flops between that and, a poor unfortunate victim of American aggression and expansionism during the 1940s. It really depends on what day of the week you're talking to them. And even then, sometimes it can flip-flop in the same conversation. But yeah, her framing it like this is leaving out the fact that Japan was the loser of a war they started with intent to kill us, in America. And they lost. We occupied them. We had to completely reform their government. We had to completely reform their military structure because of what happened in the war. So the idea, and the fact that we dropped our secret weapon on Japan, yes, that censorship of that should be discovered. Because look what happened when the Soviets stole those secrets. Look what happened to the world. We live under the umbrella of mutually assured destruction because the secret of the atomic bomb got out. That is something you do not want people, a country who saw it, talking about it. Is that grim? Yes, it is grim. Is it unfortunate? Yes, it's unfortunate. Is it true? Is it true? Was it the correct choice? Also, yes. And maybe that's mean of me to say, but you know what? It's like, hey, maybe Japan shouldn't have started the war. Anyway.
Directly addressed. After the US occupation ended, they decided to keep tickling the proverbial dragon's tail by restarting the Bikini Atoll nuclear tests, beginning with the Castle Bravo test, where the US detonated a high-yield thermonuclear bomb approximately 1,000 times more powerful than either of the atom bombs dropped on Japan 9 years earlier.
Okay. Her framing of America as detonating atomic bombs for no good reason, like tickling the dragon's tail, she says it. Does she forget that we were literally in a arms race with the Soviet Union, who also had atomic bombs and were testing atomic bombs? Like, you know, even if I'm getting my years wrong, they had every intention of getting the atomic bomb. They were working on their own nuclear program. I mean, Japan wanted to have a nuclear program before we beat them in World War II. The idea that we don't continue to test, the idea that we didn't continue to test, or that we were only continuing to test nuclear bombs because we're America, we have nukes, why not, is just, it fucking floors me that she phrases it that way. It's legitimately disgusting of her.
Now, while Bikini Atoll is a couple thousand miles away from Japan, it is kind of their oceanic backyard, and the currents in that region do lead back to Japan. Now, the problem was the Castle Bravo test detonated an extremely dirty bomb. It produced a ton of fallout, much more than the report officially stated, and probably more than anyone expected.
Okay. This is a what do you call it? An extremely disingenuous framing of the events of the Castle Bravo nuclear test. What happened with the Castle Bravo nuclear test is that they set they had the yield of the bomb. It was a new kind of bomb that they were testing, like a new detonation method. I can't recall all the details off the top of my head, but they were testing a new kind of, you know, a new type of nuclear bomb. They believed it would set off at a certain yield. It detonated at least double the expected yield. So they prepared for one yield and got double that. That is why the Castle Bravo nuclear test was so, you know, was such a disaster, because it was basically a nuclear accident. She's framing it as if America, you know, knew what it was going to do, and then didn't tell anybody. That's not true. America detonated Castle Bravo, the Castle Bravo bomb, and it went off way stronger than they thought it would. Like, it's like it legitimately scared the shit out of the people who were at the testing ground. They did not think it was going to be that big. So again, there's a lot of disingenuous framing of history going on from Red here.
Sometimes nuclear physics is a little more art than science. Now, some of this fallout contaminated a nearby Japanese fishing boat, inflicting the 23 crew members with acute radiation sickness, killing one of them and sparking an international incident. The US denied that the fallout could have affected the boat, Japan said the fallout had to have come from somewhere, tensions rose, and a Polish scientist crunched the numbers and confirmed the detonation had produced much more radioactivity than the US admitted. The media got a hold of it, the US quickly paid reparations to Japan, and nuclear paranoia spiked. It wasn't really a good
by the way, something she's leaving out here, the Lucky Dragon number 5. That's the boat. The Lucky Dragon number 5 was near Bikini Atoll, but was the Lucky Dragon number 5 was near Bikini Atoll. It was in what was based on what they thought the yield of the bomb was going to be, the safe zone. The problem is, as I said, the bomb detonated twice as hard as they were expecting, and the Lucky Dragon number 5 was suddenly not in the safe zone anymore. It was supposed to be there, but the accident with the bomb, which, you know, were detonated at, you know, double the estimated strength, is what caused it to be exposed.
Good look for the US.
I also do not hold it against the United States for withholding information, because again, it's top secret information. People don't really realize how important secrecy was with the nuclear
People
program.
were starting to realize that nukes were seriously bad news for literally everybody, and the US was kind of just dropping them willy-nilly.
Not willy-nilly, testing.
The ocean without making sure nobody was going to get hurt first. By the way, if you ever really want to piss yourself off, look up what happened to the people who lived on Bikini Atoll. So this was
That's true, by the way. I'll hand her that one.
Is the immediate social context surrounding the creation of Godzilla. 2 nukes dropped 9 years prior, not allowed to talk about it for 7 of those years, and only 8 months earlier, 23 of your citizens were poisoned by a nuclear superweapon, accidentally. And the US is still testing those bombs in that area. Everyone is tense, everyone's way too familiar with the effects of nuclear weaponry, everyone's really hoping it doesn't happen again, but also knows it's completely out of their hands. And then they release Godzilla. Now, just for a moment, let's all pretend we've never heard of Godzilla. Godzilla? What's that? Some kind of soda, maybe? Well, the movie starts off strong with a Japanese fishing boat full of...
A little extra context. The Lucky Dragon number 5 incident was the direct inspiration for Godzilla, not Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's something I feel like she left out. But yeah, the Lucky Dragon number 5 incident was the primary inspiration.
The dude's having a grand old time until the ship is destroyed and the crew is killed by some unseen force and a blinding flash of light. Uh-oh. That sounds a lot like that thing that just happened earlier that year. But worse. Huh. So they send a boat to investigate, and the boat is destroyed. They send a third boat, and the boat is destroyed. An island is devastated in the night, and 17 houses are crushed. It could have been an earthquake, it could have been a typhoon, but neither of those would explain the radiation, and they certainly wouldn't explain the footprints. So yeah, Godzilla 1954 is a horror movie, unlike literally any of its sequels. Godzilla's...
Okay. Unlike any of its sequels, okay. I want to point out we're gonna see this. We're gonna see this, by the way, when we're going into her sources on King Kong later on. But there have been other Godzillas that are horror movies. Honestly, I would argue that its immediate sequel, Godzilla Raids Again, was still a horror movie. I would also let's see what else. Let's see. Godzilla, Return of Godzilla, also known as Godzilla 1985, was also a horror movie. Shin Godzilla was a horror movie. I'm sorry, but if you're saying that none of Godzilla's sequels were horror movies, then you've never watched fucking Godzilla movies. This is peak kaiju tourism on display right now. 2014, Shin Godzilla -1, Return of Godzilla, Destroy, King of the Monsters, Raids Again, and a few others. Yeah, well, okay. I wouldn't add -1 in there because this video came out. This video came out before -1 existed. So yeah. We can't really count -1 in that sense. But yeah, no, she is completely fucking wrong that no other Godzilla movie was a horror movie. That is just, oh god, okay.
Kept hidden for much of the movie, and it makes sense this would be played for horror because he is the personified terror of the bomb. I want to take a hot second to jump forward in time and talk about Chernobyl, both the nuclear disaster and the miniseries recounting it. I've seen some people describe the first episode as something like Lovecraftian horror, and they're totally right. The exposed reactor and the radiation it's releasing is like some otherworldly dark god. It reaches through walls, right through your skin. Looking at it will kill you flat out. Being in the same building as it will make you wish you were dead. Gets into the water, the air. You could even say it's a mysterious color, unlike any seen on Earth. It's horrifying to watch if you know what's happening. It's horrifying to watch if you don't. You don't get forces like that on terrestrial planets. You don't get them outside of stars. In a very real sense, the powers unleashed by a nuclear weapon or a nuclear accident are otherworldly, eldritch, incomprehensible, and extremely deadly. And that is how they play Godzilla. Nobody can even figure out what Godzilla is for a while because he keeps killing everything that gets close. He can't be stopped by buildings or walls, weaponry has no effect on him, and anything he can't smash to pieces, he melts with the pure radiation he breathes. When he levels Tokyo, the damage he does is almost identical to what happened to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but it's slower, so you can see it all in vivid detail. Buildings crushed and burned, bystanders killed, and nothing they throw at him even slows him down. Now, if there's one advantage...
Yeah, that is accurate. The destruction caused at Hiroshima and Nagasaki was directly inspirational to the scenes of destruction in Godzilla, but she's also forgetting the Tokyo firebombing. That was another one. The Tokyo firebombing was actually deadlier than both atomic bombings combined. A lot of people seem to forget that when they laser focus on the nukes.
Godzilla has over other allegorical narrative devices, it's that the characters in his movie are completely willing to acknowledge and talk about the thing he's an allegory for. Feels like every 5 minutes one of the characters goes, "Hey, remember the bomb? Sucked, right?" Characters outright draw the analogy between Godzilla and the bomb, and in the official lore of the movie, Godzilla is only a problem because of the bombs. Specifically, the nearby nuclear testing, like the Castle Bravo incident. The scientists in the movie explain that Godzilla's natural habitat under the ocean must have been destroyed by the H-bomb testing because the radioactive signature he's leaving behind is unique to H-bombs. Godzilla is only radioactive in the first place because of the bombs. So he's in this interesting place where in-universe he's a victim of reckless nuclear testing and attacks, but from a meta-narrative perspective, he's an embodiment of those attacks, both an allegory and a victim. And if you look at the way the narrative is framed, Godzilla is not representative of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as is often phrased. He's representative of the nearby nuclear tests and their implications. He's the
Okay. She said the thing I thought she wasn't going to say. So, yeah. Okay, so props to her. That's something a lot of people forget.
the threat that Hiroshima and Nagasaki could happen again. This was a deeply political movie. So Godzilla is basically nuclear irresponsibility on two legs, a way to embody an invisible, ephemeral terror that was unfortunately all too real. And there's actually another facet of the movie, because the only way they can find to kill Godzilla is to unleash an even worse weapon they call an oxygen destroyer. The scientist who creates it is so hell-bent on making sure it's never used in a global arms race that he burns all his notes and kills himself when they use it on Godzilla. The message is incredibly overt. These weapons are awful, they do damage in ways we can't possibly predict, it might already be too late, but we have to stop while we still can. Now this is moody. It's dark, it's tragic, it's not very hopeful. It even ends with one of the characters stating that if nuclear tests continue, there could very easily be another Godzilla.
Which came out to be true, because the sequel movie came out, that year? No, it came out within a year.
So, nobody's having a good time. So it's not all that surprising that no sequel follows this format, because this—
Oh God, she's doing it again. No sequel follows this format. I'm telling you, she's probably never watched a Godzilla movie before doing this video. It's so obvious. You can find other Godzilla movies that follow this format. You didn't know the firebombings killed more people? No, that's true. That is actually true. More people died at the Tokyo firebombing than both atomic bombs. Oh no, Ramen, I would absolutely say the original Godzilla, 1954, the first one, is a political film. I would absolutely say that. I would not deny that at all. The problem comes from the fact that, you know, that doesn't make every Godzilla film inherently political. That's the misconception by people. You have to acknowledge the original is political, but you also have to acknowledge that doesn't mean Godzilla is always political. Red missing a chance to make a mysterious sequels on like any scene on Earth reference. Showa Air got weird enough to justify that. Yeah, right. All right. Let's continue.
This is heavy stuff, and sometimes you want a deeply tragic, terrifying movie to help you process your communal trauma and warn the rest of the world against hubristic self-destruction, and sometimes you just want to watch a giant nuclear dinosaur beat up a dragon from space. So after this trend-setting kaiju movie broke onto the scene, it was followed by a parade of sequels that were almost unilaterally structured as Godzilla becomes the lesser of two evils. Pit Godzilla against another giant monster, and we're probably going to root for Godzilla just on the grounds of familiarity.
It's funny she's showing King Kong versus Godzilla because, Megaman, I owe you an apology. I forgot Mothra vs. Godzilla. It was 5 movies. Okay. You were right. I was just being stupid and probably having early onset dementia. But anyway, it's funny she's saying, you know, pit Godzilla against, you know, it's funny she's showing footage from, just a lonely Cobalt. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to Crusade. It's funny she's showing King Kong versus Godzilla while saying this, because in the first 3 sequels, Godzilla's still the bad guy. Like Kong is to fight Godzilla off. Kong is the protagonist kaiju of that movie. So is Mothra in Mothra versus Godzilla. Bro, I just wanted to see Final Wars and Wars and Zilla get mogged. I might show that clip before we switch over to gaming. But yeah, no, it's like, it's funny she's showing these scenes because, again, Godzilla was still the bad guy. He didn't flip over to being a protagonist until the ending of the fifth film, which was Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, when he fought Ghidorah. And it took Mothra convincing him to fight on humanity's behalf to do that. There's actually some really interesting... Godzilla himself, as a character... Like, Godzilla is not just a kaiju, he's a character. He goes through character development through those first 5 films. It's actually, when you really sit down and watch it, you know, it's actually really interesting to watch. Like, to watch Godzilla as a character evolve and decide to actually, you know, fight to defend the planet rather than just destroy things because he's angry. But, calling the original Godzilla film moody is a massive understatement. The scene with the mom telling her kids, "It's okay, honey, we'll be with your father very soon." Oh, God, that scene fucks me up even to this day, man. Like, shit. But all right, let's continue.
Heck, his third movie ever was Godzilla vs. King Kong, which is pure spectacle. On the subject of King Kong, there's Think...
Okay. Before we even... Okay, because she's about to, she's about to get into well, she hasn't made her dumbest point, but okay. Calling King Kong versus Godzilla pure spectacle is a comedy of errors and missing the point. King Kong versus Godzilla was in and of itself a social commentary film. The film was heavily commenting on the effects of television on Japanese culture in the 1960s. The entire point of King Kong versus Godzilla as a film, it was 2 things. It was a parody of the salaryman comedy, which was popular at the time in Japan. And the movie was written to be a comment, like, literally it was a commentary on the belief that television was making the Japanese people stupid. The entire underlying conflict for King Kong versus Godzilla as a film is that basically this guy, he runs a pharmaceutical company, like a pharmaceutical company. His a pharmaceutical company that does it does television and stuff like that. He runs a company that does television, and ratings are down. And then ratings get worse because Godzilla reappears. So he sends an expedition to Faroe Island, where King Kong lives, to find King Kong and bring him back to civilization to increase ratings. And then when Godzilla starts stealing the ratings again, he decides, hey, let's have Godzilla fight King Kong, because then that'll increase our ratings again. The whole thing is almost a parody of kaiju films in and of themselves. And again, it was a parody of the salaryman comedy, which is what the main characters are. They're just trying to do their job in that movie. They're just trying to do their job for their boss and get paid. And the writers for the movie were trying to comment that it was that television was making the Japanese people stupid. That it was this quest they would go on this absolutely asinine quest to improve ratings and cause all this destruction because television is making people stupid. That was what the movie was commenting on. To say that the movie was pure spectacle is missing the point of what the writers were actually trying to say with King Kong vs. Godzilla. So that she missed the point, that she missed all of that involved in the creation of... Okay, I'm going to bring up... there's a YouTube channel out there. It's called, Big Action Bill, I think. He's done a retrospective of the Godzilla franchise, every single film, and, the making of it, the history of it. If you want information on Godzilla films, Go watch his channel. Ignore this. Ignore Overly Sarcastic Productions. Go watch Big Action Bill's retrospective of the entire franchise. It's legitimately fascinating. Like, some really good shit digging up the history and everything of the series. Was the action? Oh no, the action was good, but to say that it was pure spectacle is a direct statement of the point was the spectacle and not that it had something to say, which it did. I don't necessarily agree with what King Kong versus Godzilla had to say, but it had something to say. You see what I'm saying here? It wasn't just a spectacle film. They were actually trying to make a point with the movie and with the story therein. But all right, continuing.
Pieces about various ways it can be interpreted, but I don't think it's exactly controversial to suggest that a movie made in the 30s about a giant savage ape who is captured by white men, transported across the ocean in chains, and then abducts a white woman could possibly have some racial coding involved. And for the sake of my comment section, please do not try to defend the political sensitivity of a movie made in 1933. Can we just accept that the giant ape is probably racist?
What? No, Red. We are, in fact, going to defend the cultural sensitivity of a movie from 1933. All right. So what is King Kong about? What is King Kong about? Let's see. So here we have it, assembled from Wikipedia. So the fact a person can say that and not get a hint of what they are saying is racist is mind-boggling. Yes, agree. Okay, so let's take a look at, don't disagree with me, I'm a pompous media twat. I actually want to say, she says something to the effect of, later on, of, I did the research so you can't disagree with me. But okay. This is from Wikipedia. I screenshotted parts of Wikipedia. Let's okay, well, first of all, let's see, let's look at conception and creation of King Kong. Let's see. The book was, Martin C. Cooper became fascinated by gorillas at the age of 6. He was given a book by his uncle called Explorations and Adventures in Equatorial Africa. The book, written in 1861, included the chronicles of the adventures of a Paul du Chaillu, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, in Africa and his various encounters with the natives and wildlife. Cooper became fascinated with the stories involving the gorillas. In particular, Dr. Chaillu's depiction of a particular gorilla known for its extraordinary size, what the natives described as invincible and the king of the African forest. When Duchaillu and some natives encountered a gorilla later in the book, he described it as a hellish dream creature that was half man, half beast. So let's solidify this immediately. References to half man, half beast are in reference to the fact that is how gorillas are described. You know, as they are primates. They are related to us. They are, you know, they are a species of animal in the same family group as humans. So half man, half beast, apt description in reference to the animal itself, but not other people. As an adult, Cooper became involved in most of, okay, blah, blah, blah. That's just his history. While filming The Four Feathers in Africa, he came into contact with a family of baboons. This gave him the idea of making a picture about primates. RKO wanted to film Cooper wanted a terror gorilla picture. The story was fleshed out. Cooper decided to make his gorilla giant-sized. He stated the idea of Kong fighting warplanes at the top of a building came from seeing one flying over the New York Insurance Building, then the tallest building in the world. He came up with the idea. He came up with the ending before the rest of the story, as he stated, without any conscious effort. I thought immediately. I immediately saw in my mind's eye a giant gorilla on top of a building. Cooper was also influenced by Douglas Burden's accounts of the Komodo dragon, and wanted to pit his terror gorilla against a dinosaur-sized version of these reptiles. Stating to Burden, I also had firmly in my mind to giganticize both the gorilla and your dragons to make them really huge. However, I always believed in personalizing and focusing attention on one main character, and from the very beginning, I intended to make it the giant gorilla, no matter what else I surrounded him with. Around this time, Cooper began to refer to his project as a giant terror gorilla picture featuring a giant semi-humanoid gorilla pitted against modern civilization. So, isn't King Kong supposed to be about environmental exploitation? Yes, actually. King Kong was a Viltrumite. Okay, well, I wouldn't go that far. The brain rot is real. I heard you say invincible and immediately thought of a gorilla wearing the character costume. Okay. When designing King Kong, Cooper wanted him to be a nightmarish gorilla monster. As he described Kong in a 1930 memo, his hands and feet have to be the size and strength of steam shovels. His girth is that of a steam boiler. This is a monster with the strength of 100 men. But more terrifying is the head. A nightmare head with bloodshot eyes and jagged teeth set under a thick mat of hair, a face half beast, half human. Willis O'Brien created an oil painting depicting the giant gorilla menacing a jungle heroine and hunter for Cooper. But when it came to the time for O'Brien and Marcel Delgado to sculpt the animation model, Cooper decided to backpedal on the half-human look of the creature and became adamant Kong be a gorilla. O'Brien, on the other hand, wanted him to be almost human-like to gain audience empathy, and told Delgado to make the ape almost human. Cooper laughed at the end result, saying it looked like a cross between a monkey and a man with very long hair. For the second model, O'Brien again asked Delgado to add human features but tone it down somewhat. The end result, which was rejected, was described as looking like a missing link. Disappointed, Cooper stated, "I want Kong to be the fiercest, most brutal, monstrous damn thing that's ever been seen." On December 22nd, 1931, Cooper got the dimensions of a bull gorilla from the African Museum of Natural History, and told O'Brien, "That's what I want." When the final model was created, it had the basic look of a gorilla, but managed to retain some human-like qualities. For example, Delgado streamlined the body by removing the distinctive paunch and rump from a gorilla. O'Brien would incorporate some characteristics and nuances of an earlier creature created in 1915 for the silent short, The Dinosaur and the Missing Link, into the general look and personification of Kong, even going as far to refer to the creature as Kong's ancestor. When it came time to film, Cooper agreed Kong should walk upright at times, mostly in the New York sequences, in order to appear more intimidating. Okay, so, from the very conceptual concept of Kong as a monster, what they wanted him to be a gorilla, an animal, not a human, an animal. The reason human-like traits were added by O'Brien was for audience empathy, to humanize him, to make you understand him. You know, if the point of your story is to be a racist diatribe against a race of people you don't like, to portray them as monsters that want to hurt people, you do not wish to gain audience empathy as a design goal. This is like character design 101. You make people want to hate them, to find them disgusting, not to like have an aspect where you can sympathize and empathize with them. And that was part of the goal with designing Kong. They wanted you to sympathize and empathize with him, even if he is a monster. Who do you think would win? 10 Krampus-sized gorillas or one Godzilla-sized Krampus? Man, I don't know. I'm not in on the Krampus lore. But let's see. Going further. There's a lot of is retreaded here. But this goes into the writing. Let's see. He read the Dragon Lizards of Komodo, and as a result, blah blah blah. Cooper later stated that this was the most important influence on the final film. So let's understand this right here. Cooper's primary goal. He thought he had a mental image of a giant Komodo dragon and a giant gorilla punching the crap out of each other and was like, I want that shit on film. That was his motivation. That was his inspiration. He wasn't trying to tell a parable about, some kind of parable or social commentary. He wanted them monsters. He had two monsters in his head. He wanted to see them bitches fight. That's what he wanted to do. That was his meaning. That was his that is his authorial intent as a director of King Kong. Let's see. By the time he joined RKO in 31, Cooper decided to incorporate a Beauty and the Beast theme into the plot. The Arabian proverb at the beginning of the film was created by Cooper. And lo, the beast looked upon the face of beauty, and it stayed his hand from killing. And from that day, it was as one dead. So that's the so again, there is the whole Beauty and the Beast thing. He wanted part of the story to be that, you know, the presence of Anne, you know, effectively calms him and destroys part of the monster in him. Again, authorial intent. Planned to film in Africa, risk of bankruptcy because of the Great Depression. Cooper requested a test reel. It was approved by Selznick. O'Brien experimented with different scenes, blah, blah, blah. The two scenes, which were incorporated in the final film, portrayed a fight between King Kong and the Tyrannosaurus Rex, as well as Kong shaking men off a log. The test reel was created concurrently with the production of The Most Dangerous Game. Meanwhile, Cooper hired actors and sets built for King Kong, for live action sequences in the jungle, blah, 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 blah. Utilized the set for Most Dangerous Game. Cooper directed the live action, blah, blah, blah. The models did not have armatures after 3 months. Okay. O'Brien's ideas also helped with the story development. He suggested King Kong be seen by the characters as a sort of deity. So yeah, nothing in the authorial intent behind the creation of King Kong states this was supposed to be a racist diatribe against black people by portraying Kong as by portraying black people as a giant monkey and fucking, you know, that's kidnapping a white woman because that's what they're going to do to you if you don't keep them in check. That's not what this fucking movie is about, Red. If you had taken like 5 minutes to look into the actual fucking, you know, story as to what this movie is about, you'd see that. Fuck me. This actually makes me mad. If anything, Kong sounds like a bit of an autistic kid who has someone who calms him whenever he has a tantrum. Other folks don't understand or tolerate him, but no, it's not what the film is. Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not what the film is about. It's not what they were trying to say. This was a film that came out at the height of the Great Depression. Cooper wanted to make an escapist action film for the people who watched it to, like, you know, escape from the depressing reality of the world around them. This is the classic media literate practice of trying to overanalyze simplistic escapist fantasy to look for things that aren't there. They are looking at the forest and missing the trees. That's what this all is. But okay. Let's get back to our local retard and you know what she has to say.
Okay, moving on. Now the thing is, King Kong didn't shake his allegorical implications as easily as Godzilla did. While Godzilla got sequels.
I legitimately need a minute. I'll be right back, everyone. I'm back. Sorry. I legit had to get up out of my chair and fucking pinch back a migraine before I sat back down. Okay. Here's the problem, Red. You're saying it can't shake the allegorical implications, but you're the one inserting allegory here, not the writers. You're completely ignoring what inspired King Kong and what it was about to stick your own fucking headcanon into the story. That's not how this works, Red. Okay. We're only halfway through this, by the way.
And character development aplenty, most King Kong movies were remakes. A handful were sequels or alternate versions, but nothing really stuck. And as long as the movies were following the original format, they were stuck with either the allegorical baggage of large ape man becomes obsessed with and kidnaps white woman, or the alternative version, where the white lady is into it, so it's consensual.
Red, don't make me defend Peter Jackson's King Kong because I hate that movie, okay? Don't make me defend I'm going to defend Peter Jackson's King Kong. I don't fucking believe this. Oh my, the entire, she's completely missing the point that she's not consensual with the idea of being fucked by a giant monkey. She's accepting the fact that Kong isn't a complete monster, that there's a human aspect to him. She's learning the fact that Kong isn't this horrible creature, that he's an empathic, he's a creature with his own empathy and his own emotions just like her, and she accepts that. That's why she accepts Kong in the Peter Jackson version of the story. It's not like she's suddenly consenting to being fucked by the giant monkey, you dumbass.
I don't know anyone who was comfortable with that angle, but they did try it a few times. Godzilla, meanwhile, underwent a gradual heel-face turn. Over the course of nearly a dozen sequels, he slowly drifted from lesser of two evils to cranky protector of the Earth. His most significant character development came in Destroy All Monsters, where he teams up with every other kaiju in the world to fight noted three-headed space dragon King Ghidorah, after which point every appearance is functionally
It's Ghidorah, not Ghidra. I know I'm nitpicking, but fuck you, I'm doing it anyway.
fully benevolent. He's still cranky, and he gives humans the stink eye whenever they pollute and stuff, but this Godzilla is basically a giant, grumpy Captain Planet. He's a protector of the Earth. He only squishes things accidentally. And this was a very popular direction to take.
It's worth adding. It's worth. Hold on, I'm gonna go back a little bit. I like how she uses the term "this Godzilla," like this is like some kind of separate Godzilla from the original. When this is like literally, if we're talking like the Showa timeline in chronological order, this is the capstone of Godzilla's character development. Like, it's the last film chronologically, even if it didn't come out last chronologically. She's ignoring the fact that Godzilla developed into this. It's not a different character. He started as a destroyer and became a hero. It's like ignoring. It is fucking offensive to me that she's for entirely tourist reasons too, ignoring Godzilla's character development to laser focus on like this, because she's going to use this as an attempt to shit on the American films. It's not. No, Destroy All Monsters was the last of the middle era Showa films, transitioning into the late era Showa films. But chronologically, it's the last film. So if you want to watch the Showa Godzilla films, I do genuinely say watch Destroy All Monsters last. For those unaware, Peter Jackson's team went so overboard with the creature design and concept art, they decided to turn it into a bestiary and say they are the animals on the island. Yeah, that's cool as shit. Okay, continuing.
And this was a very popular direction to take kaiju. In the current remakes of both Godzilla and King Kong, the protagonist kaiju are functionally Gaia's vengeance, protectors of nature, disturbed from their peace or hibernation exclusively by human intervention and the occasional evil space dragon. And with King Kong, it's kind of flipped his allegorical implications from good old 30s racism to a kind of anti-colonialist message, where he's this noble and one.
Oh my fucking... When you walk into a 300-foot tall gorilla's home, it's going to fucking kill you. This is not an allegory for... This is not an anti-colonial message. That's fucking nature. Oh my god. How brain rotted do you have to be to insert this shit into fucking everything?
wondrous being in his home habitat and shouldn't be taken away or harmed. Take only pictures. Leave only footprints. Visit scenic Skull Island today. Now this character drift is convenient because unlike the terror of the bomb allegory or, good old 30s racism, this characterization gives the kaiju a moral compass and lets your protagonists be on their side, instead of hopeless and powerless in the face of unfeeling nuclear Armageddon. Or not white people. With this kind of
y'all can't see it. Y'all can't see it, but every time she inserts the racism thing, my eye twitches. It's so fucking stupid.
Kaiju narrative, it's less existential horror and more Captain Planet. More good people versus bad people conflicts, only the good people have the power of Godzilla and anime on their side. Gee, I wonder why anyone would want to write something like that. Wish fulfillment? Never heard of it. So kaiju movies ask the question.
I think what's really telling about Red here is that she frames the desire for fun escapism as a negative. That's how she frames it with every word. It's just absolutely just fuck. Just fuck.
What would humanity do in the face of something terrifyingly powerful, unthinkably enormous, and functionally unstoppable? Godzilla answered it with die a lot and then risk a global arms race to destroy it once and for all. The post-1954 sequels answered it with cheer from the sidelines while it beats up something worse. And the post-2014 remakes doubled down into leave the kaiju alone and they will solve all your problems, including global warming. And listen, I loved game.
Okay, this is the other garbage point I think she's coming up with. Let me check the... Yep. Okay. But, see, here's the thing, though. Here's the problem. She's vastly oversimplifying what the kaiju in the MonsterVerse is supposed to represent. Because the very idea of, hey, if you throw nature out of balance, it's going to cause damage. That's like half the fucking underlying message of the MonsterVerse films. And she's completely ignoring that to try to make it like some kind of... I don't even fucking know what she's trying to say at this point. It feels like she's just, she's casting shade on it just because it's not her brand of, political commentary that she wants.
King of the Monsters. I love spectacle fighting, but this character drift can have very weird, not very good consequences. I mean, the remakes take Godzilla, a character that was an embodiment of the terror of nuclear devastation, and without removing any of his nuclear power or radioactivity, makes his strongest advocate a middle-aged Japanese man who was personally affected by the very event Godzilla represents.
Okay. You know what? I know exactly what she's quoting here. And I don't even need to look it up. It was an article by a guy named Steve Rifle, a Godzilla tourist who is a self-proclaimed superfan. And he wrote this article called it was called something like The Whitewashing of Godzilla. Something to that effect. And in the article, he basically states that Godzilla 2014, the first of the MonsterVerse films, was an awful film because it wasn't constantly bending over backwards to apologize for the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, that's it. The movie, the movie does not bend over backwards to be a heavy-handed nuclear allegory to make Americans feel bad, and because of that, he said it was a bad movie that was whitewashing Godzilla as a concept in order to make him a weapon of the United States military, which is an absolutely asinine view of Godzilla 2014 as a film by any critical metric. And she's basically quoting that. She is quoting that article, not verbatim, but she's very clearly read it to come to that conclusion. And, oh, by the way, it's about to get worse. Do not slander my boy Serizawa was an amazing character in those films, and go fuck yourself for saying this, Red. But okay, let's get back to it.
The character of Serizawa exists in the remakes to metatextually remind the audience of Godzilla's Japanese roots, and very specifically his connection to the bombing. This is cute, I think. It's fan service, right up until Serizawa... There is nothing wrong with fan service.
because I get it. Key jangling, over reliance on that is bad. Over reliance on member berries is bad. But there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with it, and there's nothing wrong with respecting that connection through Serizawa as a character. It's important to respect that connection. The creators of the MonsterVerse recognize that, okay. Having said that, here's where it goes off the rails.
It dies by manually detonating a nuke to revive Godzilla, and this is treated as catharsis for his character because the nukes he hates and fears were used for good, but the good it did is reviving a giant monster who originally represented the very thing that scarred this character in the first place. But he doesn't represent that in this movie, but Serizawa's character is meant to remind us of a time when he did. So is this cool? Is this weirdly manipulative? What is this?
Hold on.
Is this America taking a
Okay. Now, that's her second garbage take in this. This is, again, she is overreaching for symbolism to find symbolism and allegory where there is none. She's implying the movie is trying to say that, okay, hold on. I need to collect my thoughts. This bitch has left me unparalleledly frustrated with her bullshit. It's okay, John. It's okay. A lot of people know. I know you just heard my real name. 40% of the white men in the United States named John. I don't mind saying it out loud sometimes. It's okay. It's okay. It's almost over. We're past the halfway point. Okay. So here's the problem. Here's the problem with this. Serizawa, there is symbolism involved. She's somewhat on point at one point in this. The point she's right about is the idea that it's taking what was the mistake of the atomic bomb to heal Godzilla to correct another mistake, which is the awakening of King Ghidorah in the film, who is actively destroying the world. Okay? The problem is that she's not separating what Godzilla represents in the MonsterVerse from what Godzilla represented in the original films. Because here's the thing. When Godzilla appears in different different iterations which spawn different series of their own, you need to take the context of the individual series to utilize as your baseline. You can't use 1954 Godzilla as your allegorical baseline for the MonsterVerse. That's not how it works. You have to use the MonsterVerse for your allegorical baseline. She's trying to imply that there's some kind of thinly veiled racism in Serizawa committing a self-sacrifice with a nuclear bomb in order to revive Godzilla. Because she can't stop looking at Godzilla through his 1954 metaphors and not his 2014 metaphors. If she claims to be, media literate, but she can't grasp the basics of what is being said by this individual series, regardless of whether it's using the same character, because that's a thing. Different iterations of characters say different things. Superman, as originally envisioned, is saying different things from Frank Miller's Superman. Okay? This is basic shit. This is basic understanding of writing. And for someone who's here to supposedly educate people about this shit, I can't believe I'm the one having to tell you this, Red. I know you can't hear me. And you'll never watch this. But I can't believe I have to be the one to tell you. Oh my God. Yeah, she considers Serizawa as a bridge of both eras, which he is, but that doesn't apply to Godzilla. Well, I mean, Serizawa's only a bridge between the two insofar as he's name referential to the Dr. Serizawa from the original, as a sign of, it's like a sign of like showing they're respecting the roots of what they're adapting. That's what it's about. But I'm right. Let's keep going.
Japanese anti-nuclear weapons narrative and twisting it to be completely pro-nuclear weapons to forgive themselves for what they've done? What is happening here? The
movie is not, it's not trying to say use nukes to solve your problems. You know what? Actually, we're going to stop talking about Red for a minute. We're going to go back to Steve Rifle and his article saying that they whitewashed Godzilla with the Monsterverse. You know what he said? He said the atomic bomb in 2014 was meant to represent atomic bombs as a problem solver and not a threat to mankind. He completely ignored the fact that that the United States government, in their hubris, tried to use an atomic bomb to kill Godzilla in the Mudos. And then the Mudos carried the atomic bomb into the middle of San Francisco. The main character had to go in, find the bomb, get it onto a boat, get that boat out to sea before the bomb exploded. The bomb was the biggest threat of the latter quarter of Godzilla 2014. The bomb was the problem. It wasn't the problem solver. I swear to God, it's like I said, nothing proves you are illiterate about media like claiming you are media literate.
Allegory's all twisted up on itself, and while it's a beautifully done scene, the more you think about it, the weirder it gets. Anyway, taking these terrifying giant monsters and making them benevolent is a very appealing way to answer the question of how would humanity handle this, because it changes the question right at the source. Well, these things, we don't need to handle them. They're not functionally unstoppable forces of malevolence, they're just misunderstood, and they don't kill innocent bystanders indiscriminately. At worst, it's an accident. And if there are monsters that are actively malevolent and kill people we like, there's always a good monster there to fight them. Godzilla isn't an embodiment of nuclear Armageddon. He's our friend. And also maybe nukes are a good thing. Godzilla likes us because we're the good guys. Because of
Okay. Show of hands. Just type something in chat. Whatever. Who here has seen Godzilla King of the Monsters? Give me a rough idea of how many people here have seen it. Just type something in chat, a letter, something. I don't care. If you've seen Godzilla King of the Monsters, type something in chat. I'll give a minute or two. Okay, so I'll assume a good chunk of you have seen Godzilla King of the Monsters, all right? Now, you notice she puts the scene with, this is deceptive editing. This is her actively lying. Because that guy says, good thing he's on our side. And then the immediate next shot is of the Chinese scientist lady saying, yes, for now. The movie ends on the note that we'd better not piss Godzilla off or he's going to fucking kill us. Okay? It is clear to me she is either not... Okay, we've upgraded from not having watched the film to potentially having watched it and is deliberately lying about the message of the film so as to poison the well.
Good guys. Because if there's one thing nuclear Armageddon is known for, it's discerning judgment. And honestly, I think that's a big part of why those recent movies fell a little flat. They've got all the...
Why those... I want to point out this this right here is very indicative of her thinking. Why those recent movies fell a little flat, and she posts the critical, you know what she post. She's saying this in reference to the film getting a 41% on Rotten Tomatoes from air quotes professional critics when it had an 83% audience score. people people who actually like movies liked King of the Monsters. Like that's objective. That's not open for debate. Like, she's saying it fell flat, but to her, the opinions of the audience don't matter, because as far as she's concerned, the audiences aren't people. Only the critics can determine if a movie is good, or if a movie is well liked. So, yeah.
Recent movies fell a little flat. They've got all the flair and much better graphics, but none of the weight. These kaiju don't mean anything. Instead of embodying...
They don't mean anything. But note she said earlier that they have something they mean, something they represent, something that they too are an allegory in their own right. You know, remember, she said that about these movies, the American films. She said that, and now she goes back on it. I gotta... Oh, excuse me. Give that a 7 out of 10. I could do better.
Some primal terror that'll resonate uncomfortably well with the audience. They're just saying, hey guys, wouldn't it be rad if a giant monster came and fixed global warming for us? And yes, that would be rad, but it's very unlikely. But one man dared to stand against the tide of meaningless, empty spectacle, to raise a fist skyward in solitary defiance and say, if humanity were faced with an onslaught of malevolent, unstoppable giant monsters, humanity would make giant robots to punch those giant monsters in the face.
Okay. She's gonna start glazing Pacific Rim now, because Pacific Rim is an entirely shallow film. Like, we were over this before. It is a shallow film with cardboard characters that is Pacific Rim is pure spectacle. It doesn't mean anything. So now she's gonna glaze about how Pacific Rim is some deep meaningful commentary or some shit. But how much you want to bet?
So let's talk about Pacific Rim. Guillermo del Toro is a man who understands monsters. He understands the complex interplay between humanity and inhumanity, and he knows that sometimes a person is a monster, sometimes a monster is a person, and sometimes a monster is a monster. You got Hellboy in The Shape of Water, and Blade 2, apparently, where he explores inhuman, monstrous protagonists that are fundamentally people on the inside.
Yeah, no, Guillermo del Toro made Blade 2. It's a really good movie.
Emotional, compassionate, lonely. I haven't watched Blade 2. The point is, sometimes his monsters are people.
Now, see, that should tell you all you need to know. She wants to comment, but she didn't watch Blade 2.
And sometimes they're monsters. And when they're monsters, they're usually allegorical. Del Toro went on record stating that the Pale Man, a child-eating antagonist in Pan's Labyrinth, represents institutional evil feeding on the helpless, and outright says it's no coincidence that it's a pale man.
Do you want to know why Del Toro said this? Do you want to know why Del Toro said this on Twitter? He was saying the Pale Man was supposed to represent Donald Trump. That's why he said that. We're just going to leave it at that.
Man. Bold. So when Del Toro took a break from directing horror to make a badass action giant robots versus giant monsters punch-up, he did what he does best. He made the monsters mean something. The protagonist Raleigh at one point describes being in a Jaeger as being powerful enough to fight a hurricane and win. That humans face down colossal, mind-numbingly destructive threats and respond by making themselves big and strong enough to fight it hand to hand. It's a very uplifting message about human nature, the power of teamwork, and how nothing is strong enough to keep us down if we decide to fight back. Pacific Rim is a movie about humans being human. So the monsters are monsters. More specifically, they're hurricanes. It's no coincidence they're given cute nicknames and ranked with a category system from 1 to 5. And specifically, in-universe, they're part of a hostile terraforming effort from an extra-dimensional race of colonizing aliens. The Kaiju in Pacific Rim are, in the most literal sense, climate change, and that they are physically changing the climate, battering down coastal cities like hurricanes strengthened by warming waters.
Actually, no, Red. It's very clear you didn't watch this movie because the aliens are not terraforming Earth. They're trying to move to Earth because the environment of Earth is perfect for them. It's already perfect. They don't need to terraform it. That's the whole point. Like, there is something with the one scientist guy basically says, we basically, made the planet perfect through them via our pollution. But it's such a fucking one-off line. It's very clear the writers were not thinking that far ahead. I will say, though, it is weird to see her praising a humanity fuck yeah story, because Pacific Rim is humanity fuck yeah at the end of the day. It's weird to see her praising that. Woke media literates generally dislike humanity fuck yeah, because woke media literates are, as a whole, misanthropes.
Poisoning the oceans with chemical-spilled blood, overwhelming storm walls built in anticipation of much smaller threats. Hell, Charlie Day's character outright draws the comparison, suggesting that human-made climate change has already done most of the alien terraforming, and now they're just sending in the kaiju for the finish.
It's so telling that I'm able to call out how she gets wrong, what she's getting wrong, as she contradicts herself.
Touch. Essentially, humans accelerated the process of the aliens changing the climate. Do you get it? Okay. Pacific Rim very specifically harkens back to Godzilla's origins as a global existential threat personified, raising the stakes by making the threat lots of kaiju instead of just one, and makes the danger they represent immediate and extremely relevant. It sends the message that yes, we made this happen, and yes, things are very bad and getting worse. But it also says that yes, we can fight back. If we put aside our differences, ignore all our useless political squabbling, focus on the only thing that really matters, and then confront the apocalypse head on, we will be able to punch it into submission. And also drop a nuke on it. Kaiju movies can never agree if nukes are good or bad. Anyway, the point is, kaiju movies frequently make statements about
Hey, Red, it's almost like the use of a nuclear bomb is contextual based on the individual movie, and you trying to apply a blanket allegorical statement to the genre is completely stupid, and you don't understand the genre at all.
the world, the things that scare us, and what we can do about them, and as a result are often extremely political when you look at them. Sometimes they say we can't do anything about them. Sometimes they say the problems are our fault. Sometimes they bounce back to wish fulfillment and imagine a world where the giant unstoppable force is a good thing that'll fix our giant unfixable problems. And sometimes they say it's up to us to work together and face the problem head on, to admit that things are bad and to fight to the very end to make them better again. And also, sometimes it's just fun to watch two incomprehensibly giant monsters kick the crap out of each other.
I'm gonna be honest. Her throwing that in at the end is no. It does not absolve you, Red, of overanalyzing shit you didn't need to and finding meaning that didn't exist.
Oh hell yeah! So yeah.
Oh my god. That was the so. That was the video, everyone. That was worse than I remembered it, honestly. I admit I'm glad I took the time to look up the stuff about the origins of King Kong ahead of time. But in the words of the OxyClean guy, but I'm not done yet. So okay. I've been holding one in ever since we started watching this. I'm going to go AFK. I will be right back, and then we're going to get into the follow-up discussion of this video. So hang on, everyone. I'll be right back.
Out there, yes, clear. Loud and clear. In the suspicious Pacific. 4423 live, look at the mobile station. On the cut. C7? Yes, ma'am, we'll be clear, and 233 will be clear on the N4 E. Edward, and 2 will both be a 50. 224, I'll be going out there. 233 will be clear on the N4 E. Edward, and 2 will both be a 50. Out there, yes, clear. Loud and clear. In the suspicious Pacific. 4423 live, look at the mobile station. On the cut. C7? Yes, ma'am, we'll be clear, and 233 will be clear on the N4 E. Edward, and 2 will both be a 50. 224, I'll be going out there. 233 will be clear on the N4 E. Edward, and 2 will both be a 50. Out there, yes, clear. Loud and clear. In the suspicious Pacific. 4423 live, look at the mobile station. On the cut. C7? Yes, ma'am, we'll will be clear, and 233 will be clear on it, and for E. Edward, and so we both be a 50. 224, I was going out there.
I am back, everyone. Man, I had to drain a lizard so bad, you have no idea. But yeah, I wanted to get through that first. OxyClean got I can talk. The OxyClean guy is named Billy Mays. Yeah, that's right, Billy Mays. I completely forgot. I apologize for that. Her statement aged poorly because the MonsterVerse is performing well. The MonsterVerse is unironically beating the shit out of Marvel in terms of success. Like, the MonsterVerse is unironically doing better than Marvel. Like, who thought that day would come, right? Like, oh my god. Yeah, no, this video aged terribly. Like, not to mention Japan is starting their own kaiju, their a new Godzilla series themselves. So yeah. But right. So let's the MonsterVerse is the only healthy movie verse right now. Yeah, exactly. It's the only one that's actually making money. All right. Okay. Let's. I did a little bit of noticing. I was noticing, chat. So this was posted by Red on Twitter after this video came out. So what I'm getting from the comments on the Kaiju video is, even though it's been pretty much universally agreed on for nearly 90 years, some people really don't like hearing that King Kong is racist, and I seriously need to watch Shin Godzilla. I mean, it's telling she said Godzilla was never a horror movie again, but she's never watched Shin Godzilla, which was right fucking there. But right. So let's analyze this. So apparently it's been universally agreed upon for 90 years that King Kong is a racist diatribe. A racist diatribe saying black people are monsters and gonna steal your white women and blah blah blah. But you know what? Let's analyze that. Let's analyze that. What are we looking at here? Okay. So let's see. Oh no, this was criticisms of King Kong. Oh, fuck it. Let's bring up the reception of Kong. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, everyone. Okay, what were the, let's see, contemporary, that is, these were the criticisms, these are the, critical opinions of King Kong of the era, from the 1930s when it came out. King Kong received positive reviews upon release. Motion Picture Herald predicted it would be one of the sensational pictures of the year, opinion that no more thrilling climax ever was filmed. Hollywood Reporter claimed the film bears all the earmarks of a winner, predicting it would make plenty of money. Another review declared, superbly produced and acted. A great piece of imagination hatched in the brain of a showman for showmen. Motion Picture Herald called it imagination stunning, praised it for buildup of suspense, and called it a showman's picture. Chicago Tribune called it one of the most original, thrilling, and mammoth novelties to emerge from a movie studio. New York Times gave readers an enthusiastic account of the plot and thought the film as a fascinating adventure. The New World Telegram said it was one of the very best of all screen thrillers, done with all of the cinema's slickest camera tricks. The Film Daily said the picture has plenty of shocker stuff, and the terror is heightened by Fay Wray screaming, while the film's musical score adds its blare to keep the audience in a state of turmoil. The viewer cautioned that some women and children might dislike the film's intensity. John Mosher of New Yorker called it ridiculous, but wrote that there were many scenes in this picture that are they're certainly diverting. Joe Bigelow of Variety thought the film had power once a viewer got used to the phony atmosphere, and remarked that a few details were too strong to swallow the picture. The technical innovations overshadowed the plot and acting. The film's, quote, many flaws, he added, were overcome by general results. Newsweek wrote that Cooper and Schudsack were no longer scientists because the film was exaggerated in its fake views of wildlife. Hollywood Reporter included a multi-page booklet in its March issue featuring production stills and concept sketches alongside general praise of the film. So, as we can see, in the 30s when the movie came out, critics were referring to it as a spectacle film, not a commentary, a spectacle film. All right, okay. Let's go down to recent criticisms. USA Today claims the film stands tall as a groundbreaking piece of jaw-dropping, eye-widening entertainment. Washington City Paper called it a movie upon whose foundation we built a sizable selection of contemporary pop culture. Film historian Michael Price calls the film a product of a remarkable group of daredevils, artists, and craftsmen. Brian Eggert claims that King Kong's greatness remains in part because it demonstrates a compendium of classic Hollywood production strategies. He additionally praises the music as guiding every emotion. Almar Hafeldison of BBC praises the fantastic atmosphere of the score and richest of Kong's characters. He adds that the animation is technically brilliant and highly imaginative in terms of cinematic action. Roger Ebert included King Kong in his great movies list, writing that in the very artificiality of some of the special effects, there's a creepiness that isn't there in today's slick, flawless, computer-animated images. Even allowing for its slow start, wooden acting, and wall-to-wall screaming, there is something ageless and primeval about King Kong that still somehow works. I will say I'm not a fan of how Roger Ebert will try to criticize a film outside the era it was made. The era in which a film is made is an important context for providing critique of that film. If you ever want to get pissed off, look up Roger Ebert's review of the, it was like literally one of the last reviews he did before dying of the original 1954 Godzilla. Like, look it up. It is patently offensive, the things he says about that film. James Bernardellini wrote that advances in technology and acting have dated aspects of the production. He also adds that the acting is weak and that he feels some sense of awe and consideration of the special effects. The Guardian pointed out that Kong's perceptible size changes are marked on that compared to the film's filming techniques. King Kong has ceased to be the thriller and has become one of the best comedies seen in years. In its review, Time wrote that Kong sometimes doubled in size. TIFF? The fuck is TIFF? I've never heard of them. Toronto International Film Festival, okay, wrote that it is reductive in its portrayal of humans and especially of indigenous people. Now, okay, that is the first time racism has been brought up in the critical discussion of King Kong. When was that written? 2025. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 97% based on 161 views, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, favorable on Rotten Tomatoes. Now okay, we're not going to go over what the people saying the film is full of. I mean, look, I will concede this much, that there is a bit of insensitivity toward the depiction of Native Islanders in the film. This is largely a matter of casting, though. And again, I'm not going to hold that against the film because it is a product of its time. I'm going to judge the film based not on my own modern views, but what they were working at the time. But now that said, this is where all the critical analysis of racism comes from. Of the film is a racist portrayal of black people through Kong himself comes from. Now, I'm not going to read it out loud. You can go to the Wikipedia page if you want to. This is all just brain rot. But we're going to check some receipts. Let's see. 2025. 2011. 1996. 2008. 1983. Let's see what else. 2021, 1996, 1996, 2013, 2009, 1996, 2009, 2008. Let's see, 2013, 2009. Are y'all noticing a pattern here? 2009, 1996, 1996, 1996, 1996, 1996. Let's see, 1996, 1996. A lot of this is from the same guy, this Rory person. 1996, 1996, 96, 2007, 2009, 2017. So, are y'all noticing this now? So let's close all these images. Let's go back to what Red had to say. Red had to say that for 90 years, everyone agreed King Kong was a racist representation of black people and written to be like allegorical of them as a representation of them assaulting white women. That is what she had to say. And she said, for 90 years, that was the belief. There ain't a single critical analysis that agrees with this prior to 1983. And then there weren't any more until 1996. And then there weren't more after that until like exactly the point in history where woke bullshit started to come up, the 2006-2008 era. 90 years, Red. Funny about that. 90 years. Where'd you get 90 years then, Red? If it's 90 years of people agreeing with you, where the fuck are they? You know, actually, I kind of challenge Red to comment on this toward me. Not some vague post on Twitter.com, but to actually like at me and show me your sources that this is a 90-year-old argument. Because for the life of me, I ain't seeing it unless every critical analysis before the one that existed in 1983 was like erased from history or some shit. But yeah, show me your sources, all of your sources that you did on this, Red. Prove it's been agreed upon for 90 years. Until then, Red, I declare you a fraud and a tourist. You do not know what you're talking about. You have no right to discuss Kaiju. Never talk about Kaiju again. Do us all a favor. Her proof is on Reddit, guaranteed. Yeah, no, see that. I agree.